It's not known how many enslaved Africans were forced from their homes and sent to the New World, to America, during the nearly 400 years of the transatlantic slave trade. Estimates range from anywhere from 12 million to 40 million. Untold numbers of Africans died on the journey to the New World, shackled, crammed side by side, as many as 500 to a ship. They were held for transport, they were beaten, the women raped at Cape Coast Castle and other places like it in Western Africa. Now, we want to take you inside the castle and the dungeons and show you what human beings are forced to endure and what the president and his family witnessed this weekend. What must have been the most emotional part of his trip took place here at Cape Coast Castle. This is where enslaved Africans were held before being shipped to the New World, being shipped to America. They were kidnapped from their homes, taken from their villages, ripped from their families. And as soon as they were brought here, the men were separated from the women. The men were forced into this area, the male dungeon. These rooms would hold as many as 1,000 Africans at one time. They're large, cavernous rooms. There's really no windows. There's small holes punched in the ceiling for ventilation, but very small. You get a little bit of light, but that's the only light that would be in here. There's 5 different rooms. Each one would hold 200 slaves. There's no toilets, of course. There's a gutter that runs down the middle of the floor right here. This would be used for urine and for feces, but archaeologists have found that the entire floors were covered with feces about a foot thick that they've excavated a few years ago. Many of the men who were held in these cells never got out. They died in these rooms of malnutrition, disease, brutality. Every day, apparently, a check would be done on who was still living, who had died. Bodies would be removed, placed into this room. Those who were about to die would be placed here as well. This is the final resting place of untold number of Africans. Of course, many of those who were enslaved tried to fight back, tried to escape, even once they got here to Cape Coast Castle. The punishment for doing that, though, was death. And this is the place that they were killed. It's the punishment cell, and it's one of the most horrible places you will ever visit. Once an enslaved African was forced through this door, it was a death sentence. As many as 20 or 30 enslaved Africans would be forced to live in this room until they died. As you can see, there's no light in here except for the light from our camera. There's no windows. These walls are incredibly thick, stone covered with plaster. And what's so eerie about this place is you can still see, look, these are what look like scratch marks. People literally trying to claw their way out. There's even some spots on the floor where markings where people were doing anything they could to dig themselves out. You see a lot of these circular markings. No one's really sure exactly what that is, but they think it's just people who were here just trying to claw out, trying to pass the time. There are even some spots where you can see teeth marks on the floor. There's no bathroom in here. Once you were in this room, it was a death sentence. Women who were kidnapped and enslaved were brought here, separated into 2 different dungeons. Each held about 150 people. So you can imagine 150 women crammed into this room. They're stuck here for anywhere from 2 weeks to several months, nowhere to go, not sure what's going to happen to them, no place to go to the bathroom, fed just twice a day. It's an eerie place to be, I can tell you that. If a woman was detected to be pregnant, she would maybe be allowed to leave, but that was pretty much the only way out. And it's just a short walk from the female dungeons to the door of no return. Women and men who were held captive here were ultimately led down this corridor through this door, the door of no return, they call it. On the other side of the door were slave ships waiting to take them to a life of bondage in the New World, and in some cases